Some comments on this? Do you have any further discussion on it?
No, I mean, just basically that using county commission districts as a basis for max doesn't make a lot of sense, and to try to discourage that, because I mean, I'm having to deal with that in the max I'm trying to create. I wanted to do something that would resemble more the community council boundaries, and I'm being forced to kind of do something that is more along the lines of my district. And for the purpose of getting this process moving forward, I'm going along with that. But it would make a lot more sense to just, from the get-go, if you're going to study an area for an incorporation, it makes sense to do it along boundaries that make sense.
And it would always be the community council boundaries, because when one would incorporate, the rest would be.
Well, I would
Makes
say
more
that
sense
I would
that
say that your guidepost would be the community council boundaries,
Right.
as opposed to county commission districts, because that was a planning exercise, the community councils, and it was done from a planning perspective. So that gives us a better guidance as to things that could have some sense moving forward, as opposed to the county commission districts. Which, I mean, if you just look at the map, I'm trying to do that big old blue spot there, Community Council 11, and my district is like 2/3 of it, so I got to leave that whole third, the eastern third out. So.
Okay, Mr. Alexander.
No, you got Richard.
Okay, well, Richard, you want to go first, or does it make a difference?
Go ahead, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, but I would just take out any boundary, so it has complete flexibility of the people that want to do it. So not be bound by the community council or the county commission.
I agree.
Okay, Mr. Friedman.
In regards to the community council, I know when I sat on the community council, there was a lot of discussion on revising the boundaries to improve the particular areas in lieu of the incorporations that occurred. So there may be some inconsistencies in the community council boundaries if you look at each one. There are a couple of them that are pretty logical, but I think there's some of them that are somewhat scattered. So I think I would agree with the aspect that if the area that's proposed for incorporation does have multiple commission districts in it, that there's some mechanism to where it doesn't have to be decided upon each individual commissioner.
Okay. Anybody, Mr. Mayor, and then Mr. Beamer.
Mr. Chairman, I agree there should not be any boundaries. The boundaries change every 10 years anyways. The city, once it's incorporated or annexed, will never change. So the fact that they want to hold it to the county commission district is ridiculous, because the boundaries may change. And that should be totally eliminated. The commissioners that want to create a map, like Commissioner Zapata did, he should be allowed to create his map. They have the floor of the dais, on the dais, and the commissioners that oppose it can talk to their colleagues and tell them why they don't agree with that boundary. They can make a change there, but to hold them not being able to get off the ground just because one commission doesn't like it, that's wrong.
Make a motion.
So I make a motion.
What's the motion?
Second, and if your motion included both annexation and incorporation,
Yes.
and I would second that.
I'm
To
sorry,
include.
clarify the motion.
Manny, clarify what the motion is.
The motion is basically to eliminate that a commissioner can stop a MAC or an annexation from moving forward because it crosses boundaries. I think that's ridiculous.
Well,
and
and that they be logical and
No, correct.
contiguous.
And compact.
Yeah.
it has to be logical.
Take
Yes.
Yes. So that's the thing I had a question about, because in some cases, and I've been involved in this in the past, in some cases, the city has individual property owners along its boundary that really want to be in the city because they want city services, or they're getting city services for whatever reason. And it doesn't create a perfect square line, if it creates maybe a little, diving board that sticks out there in the middle of the pool. But that property owner wants it. It's next to the city. It's got its continuing boundary, and I don't think that annexation should be denied because it doesn't create a perfectly square
It
line.
says it here, addresses on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so you want to address boundaries on a case-by-case basis
Says it here.
and eliminate the ability of a commissioner to stop an incorporation because it goes a couple of blocks into their boundaries.
That's the part of it.
Yes.
I know Commissioner Zapata talked about this before, but what is the rule now that we're trying to eliminate about getting commissioner?
Let me ask the staff, Jennifer, the attorney.
Is that a rule?
It's
or
more
just
a practice.
Is it a custom?
It's a practice, and
Respect.
I believe Chairman Sosa is trying to make it into a resolution, into a rule. But basically, I could propose a MAC, but if I go into another commissioner's area, that commissioner has to sign off on it.
So they have veto power.
Basically.
Because, let me just ask, we have the attorney here.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know what the law is. What are we saying?
Absolutely.
Because the reality is, we can't really force, if the commissioners, as a matter of, they can really do whatever they want to do. The issue is whether or not, under the law, they have a right to do it. So that's a big difference. But right now, does one commissioner, if Commissioner Zapata forms, or if Commissioner X forms a MAC, and and that commissioner sponsors it, and that MAC extends a couple of blocks into Commissioner Y's district, does Commissioner Y have to sign off on it? Not as a matter of informal policy, but as a matter of law and the code.
In the code, it requires that if a MAC is extended beyond the commissioner's district, it's automatically excluded from the MAC unless the commissioner whose area is covered by that MAC submits to the clerk approval of the inclusion of that area. So yes, it's in the law as established by the code. Obviously, the code can be changed, and I believe your recommendation is to...
Your motion, which has been seconded, is to change the code so that the boundaries are decided on a case-by-case basis, and to change the code or add something to the code that a commissioner doesn't have the right to unilaterally kill a MAC because it moves into their district.
So we go ahead and do
It's a
that.
discussion now. Yeah.
So we go ahead, let's suppose we go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
But being an outside observer of this for a while, Commissioner, you're on this, you're obviously there. There's a certain thing you guys give to each other as colleagues, et cetera. And if we try, I have a feeling that if we try to ram this down the commission, this commission, some commissioners might like it, some might not. But I just wonder, is there any other way that we can do this instead of trying to say that now that the commissioner, which is always in this history of this board, there's been deference to a commissioner of if your area has been you're not incorporation, but in any aspect, if it touches your district, that you have a certain collegial deference to them, etc. I don't know if.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Alexander.
Finish?
No, yeah, I don't know if I finished yet, but what I'm
Go
trying to
ahead.
say is
Go
that,
ahead.
what I'm trying to say is
We're listening.
the reality is that what the code says is something that wasn't just developed yesterday. It has been inherent in this board since its beginning, and it's been a deference to whatever an area falls within a particular commissioner's area. There's a deference to it. So I'm just wondering if there's any other way around this without trying to kind of shove it down their throats, because
We already did.
we did what?
Well,
Well, hang
Or
on.
elaborate on it.
Perdete un momentito. I'm listening.
I'm just talking about the
Now,
reality.
I want you to finish your comments.
Yeah, it's the realities. The realities is that whenever you're trying to change now a philosophy of this board that's would be contrary to everything that we've done, which is given deference, and I don't know if you can maybe soften it and just say there's some type of deference without being a full veto power over it, which right now I guess they have a full veto power, right?
Yeah, the mechanism's there, and by the way, listen, I don't think anything the task force does, you're not going to shove anything down the commission's throat. They'll regurgitate it. They'll regurgitate it rather vocally too. So, what?
Well, what is it? I missed that one.
No, that you're not going to shove anything down the commission's throat because they'll regurgitate it and they'll do it in a very vocal manner. So don't worry about that. I think we, as a task force, we should be honest about our recommendations. You know, the county commission, they're big girls and boys over there. They'll take it for what it is, and I think they'll appreciate for this task